Well, Martin, you have just relocated to the United States to head up KPMG's German practice as it relates to US multinationals and clients conducting business here in the US. Tell me, you've only been here for a while, but I know you've been very, very busy. What are you talking to people about today?
Well, thank you, Rodney. First of all, thank you for having me here today. It's really my pleasure. At the moment, I think it's very interesting to be a tax advisor because there are so many changes in the landscape of international taxations. However, for our clients, this means that all these changes, and even introduced for good reasons, tax transparency and tax fairness, needs to be anticipated, needs to be monitored, and of course, needs to be integrated into the client's global tax planning framework. And this is indeed quite challenging because at the client side, this puts a lot of significant pressure on the head of taxes because as most tax departments do not have simply enough capacity to manage all these new requirements. And while in the past, tax planning was partly driven by tax optimization, today, I think it's definitely about avoiding double taxation or even the taxation of the same piece of item in more than two countries. And for example, last year, Germany not only introduced its anti-hybrid regime as response to 82, but also revised the anti-treaty shopping rules in a more tightened way. And in particular, the latter defines significant hurdles for repatriating profits or other payments from Germany without withholding taxes. And in my experience, many of the holding companies in place have not been necessarily established with tax reasons in mind, but rather for other reasons or legal aspects. But anyway, I think there are many companies which are currently in the process of reviewing their structures to see to what extent they still make sense from a tax perspective or from an economical perspective at all. And of course, in this context, it's relevant to keep the 83 discussion in mind, which goes in the same direction. Beyond, we have the BEPS 2.0 discussion with Pillar 1 and Pillar 2, and some European countries have already published some proposals for minimum taxation and their top-up taxes. And it can be anticipated that Germany will come up with some concrete proposals over the next months as well. I mean, they have to, given the overall timeline for the transposition process, which is quite ambitious. And yeah, well, I mean, even if Germany is not typically expected to be a country with a statutory income taxation of less than 15%, there will be nevertheless be new compliance requirements and reporting requirements that need to be observed. So there are really a lot of different discussions and topics on the table right now, and I expect that the discussions will continue as there is still a high level of uncertainty about the bills and the proposals and how they will implement it in detail in the respective countries.
So that's really interesting, Martin. I mean, you paint a picture of, I'm just sort of thinking about it from a business's lens. They set up structures a while ago that were appropriate for perhaps their business and their organization and their operations. But just as we continue to go through this period of persistent global law change, it may just be that that structure is now harming them rather than supporting their business initiative. It must be overwhelming for people to keep on top of all this. So how do you talk to people about how they should analyze the situation and think about what changes might be needed?
Well, I mean, this is certainly quite challenging for both, for the clients as well as for us, as there is still this high level of uncertainty. However, I think we are quite well prepared to help the clients navigating through this uncertain times and complexity, because we have both the tax knowledge on the one hand and technical tools to model the impacts resulting from the different scenarios. So I think the modeling has become an important part of the international tax planning in order to make sure the client has a reliable expectation and reliable numbers with regard to the future and what the tax impacts might be coming out of all these different initiatives.
That's really interesting, Martin. So that's a lot to unpack. We've got existing business structures, tax law changes, regulatory environment, just trying to avoid double taxation. This must be keeping you very busy in New York these days.
It is, but it's very exciting. I'm very, very happy to be here.
Well, it's really nice to catch up with you again, Martin. I look forward to catching up with you when I'm next in New York, and stay COVID safe, okay?
Thank you. You too. Look forward to meeting you. See you there.